Tommy Grella, tell me why a savings account is maybe not a great idea.
Because you're not earning enough. Let's go back to the example that we used, that you need to save $427 a month for a child born today that's going to go to college at 18 for a private school. If you put that in a regular savings account right now, you're lucky if you get 2.5%. Let's assume that. You're not going to save $427, you're going to save $572.
So what am I going to do instead?
Excuse me, $752. I lied. So that's $300 more a month. So what are you going to do instead? Most of these companies mutual fund companies have different types of savings vehicles for children, and then your money's invested professionally where a mutual fund advisor is deciding what to buy and what to sell for the benefit of the child. And as you stated earlier, a lot of those accounts are age-weighted, so as the child gets older, they get more and more conservative, allowing for the fact that we don't want fluctuation. We want that basket of money available to them when it's time for withdrawal, when it's time for college.
So the amount of risk that you should be taking is dependent on the child's age.
Yeah, a general investment rule, the longer you have, the more fluctuation in your value you can deal with.
Now, if most families don't have enough to save up, and you said these are the people that should have the financial advisor, I sit down with a financial advisor, what would they tell me? I want you to teach us now. You're our financial advisor. If I come to you and I say, I don't really have a lot of money, and I have 3 kids. I have 2 kids, and they're 10 and 13, and I haven't really done a whole lot of saving because I'm living paycheck to paycheck. What do I do now?
Well, if you only have a little bit to do, again, let's say that you can commit to the birthdays and the Christmases and teaching your kid to put that money away, assuming you have nothing else. The first place I would look is what's called an education IRA, or sometimes called the Coverdell Education IRA, named after the legislation. That account only allows you to put up to $2,000 a year in, and as you stated, most people would be under that provision. But the benefit of that account is all the growth is not taxable. So you don't have to worry about extra tax bills at the end of the year because things are tight. Most importantly, when you take the money out, there's no taxes as well, as long as it's used for higher education purposes. Now, here's the specific. With an educational IRA, the Coverdell account, and it's invested in a mutual fund, when you take the money out, you can take it out for a computer for your child in high school. You can take it out for hairdressing school. You can take it out for books that they need.
So it could be a trade, it could be an accessory, it could be for the tuition bill as long as it's related to education?
That's correct, and for the benefit of that child whose name is on the account.
Okay, I got it.
This is why it's good there's a cap, because if you put $40,000 in and they don't go to a big expensive school, then you're out of luck.
Right.
On the tax savings.
There's really no way for the IRS to really monitor this other than if you're going to be audited.
Now, I did hear that there's some sort of tax deduction. I think it's up to $2,000. This is something that I think it started last year, that you can deduct if you have paid for your the kids' college with the books and et cetera. Is that correct?
There are some, and I've got to be careful here because I'm not a tax advisor, and it's depending on state to state, and it depends on what your income is. But there are some deductions that are available for, I believe it's the first 2 years of school for some people who have children in college. But the amount that they'll allow you to deduct is very minimal by comparison to the cost of college, as we stated.
Without a doubt. And if you make a certain amount of money, you're SOL on that one.
That's correct.
All right, so let's talk about the 3 plans that we were mentioning. There's the 529, and explain how that all works.
The 529 plan, again, is a tax-advantaged account in that when you put the money in, you don't pay taxes on it as it grows as long as you take it out for higher education. However, unlike the education IRA, the 529 reserves withdrawals just for accredited colleges and universities. So it has to go towards tuition or room and board of an accredited university or college.
But does it have to go to that one child whose name is on it, or if it's not used, can it go to another child in the same family?
You girls are so good.
Look it up.
If only we had the money to back up our mouths.
I know, we've got lots of questions, but we don't have any money.
To answer your question, you can move the beneficiary. You can change the beneficiary from one to another.
That's great.
Okay, so if one child's not going to school and you think it's going to go to the other child, then we can change the beneficiary from one child to the next.
That's excellent. Now, you mentioned Coverdell Education Savings Account, and the other is the Uniform Transfer to Minors Act account. What is that all about?
Uniform Transfer to Minors Act account does not have a tax advantage. It does not grow on a tax-free or tax-deferred basis.
So what would be the point of putting it in there?
Well, you also have to worry about when you have to make withdrawals. It's not necessarily just for education. The whole benefit there is that you're saving for a child and it's in the child's name.
And it's for their future.
Oh, if it's in their name. So that has to do with how you file your taxes and what you earn to kind of get some income onto the kid's name?
Yeah, and again, I've got to be careful because I'm not a tax advisor, but until they're a certain age, I believe it's age 14, it's all filed under them, and then it could be filed under you. If they earn too much money in the account, then they may be taxable at your rate. There's all kinds of nuances there. The big benefit, again, is you're not necessarily going to have to use that for higher education. There is one caveat, one thing I warn people about, and that is, depending on the state that you're in, there's an age of majority, either 18 or 21.
They get that money.
That's correct. If the child finds out about it, they can literally walk into my office and say, hey, I know Mom has an account here. I'm 21 years old now in Massachusetts. Give me my money.
In other words, don't tell your kid, but then again, you have to tell your lawyer or somebody in case you croak.
Correct.
Yeah, but also doesn't it have to do, the way you save have to do with the way you plan to pay. Like when you go to college, the individual attending college, you're applying for the loan. But your parents' income and your money all gets configured in different ways to foot that bill.
And what they look at is how much money's in the child's name. If the money's in the retirement account, for the parent who doesn't have a lot of money and they saved it in their retirement account, their retirement account doesn't count much against them when applying for financial aid.
Because it's not the child's name.
Because it's not the child's name, but if you have the money in an UTMA account, Uniform Transfer Minors Act account, if you have an education IRA or 529,
that's a boo-boo right there.
Right there.
Your kid's got income.
39% of that counts towards their ability to pay.
Yikes.
But what people fail to remember is financial aid is not just, it's not really a government system. It's a university by university system.
Right.
So don't assume that because one college didn't give you much for financial aid that you can't get it anywhere else.
Now, here's what we've done through this whole conversation, Tommy Grella. We have basically freaked people out a little bit, or we've inspired them to, oopsie, maybe I should be saving now. So if people would like to find out more about you, maybe they have questions, this has inspired them to at least start to think about getting the ball rolling. Do you have a website?
Yep, you can go to my website, grellafinancial.com. That's Grella financial.com. If you want to ask specific questions, you can click on the, send me an email tab, and I'll be happy to answer them. Or you can, my 800 number's there. You can call me and ask me a question. For all the Kim and Betsy listeners, just tell me you heard me on the show and you want to ask me some questions. I'm happy to do it.
Well, you've answered a lot of questions, and we threw a lot at you, so we thank you for that, Tommy.
It's my pleasure. You girls are great.
Thank you. We'll see you around tax time again.
All right.
Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
I feel a little bit better. I mean, I have been saving, but boy, it's tough.
In her name or in your name?
I've been saving. Ooh, that's a good question. Well, see, I have a CD that's in her name, but I was going to move it to a 529 in end of June when it comes up. Because it's silly to have it in her name now, I just heard.
Well, if she's going to apply for financial aid, that's something you got to think about.
Yeah, she's going to apply for financial aid because by the time...
before they get close to 18.
Well, by the time my money, she's ready to go. I'm hoping to be retired, so I won't have any
hoping to be rich.
hoping to be dead. No. All right, now listen, you guys, we got a lot more show straight ahead. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about how you can make your life a little more eco-friendly. But here's